Good evening, America. I'm Sam Gelfand, and this is U.S. News Tonight. Our top story this evening, a safe zone just outside of Washington, D.C. has fallen due to a public onslaught. Virus-free Zone 147 of Fairfax, Virginia is the latest victim in a string of violent mob attacks against wealthy Americans fleeing to exclusive quarantine areas. The president ordered the National Guard to be partially mobilized last week amid mounting frustrations, but even federal protection was not enough. Thousands of rioters overwhelmed military checkpoints and scaled walls. The number of casualties is unknown due to the unrest. The Virginia Department of Health has released a statement saying the area known as Virus-Free Zone 147 is to be condemned and demolished due to the high likelihood of contamination. Demolition will proceed whether or not unauthorized civilians continue to occupy the area. The potential for civilian casualties is unfortunate, but will ultimately prevent further spread of the virus. Unable to find sufficient solace on Earth, the world's rich and famous are looking to the stars. Telva Aeronautics has announced their first rocket to Mars is scheduled to depart later this week. The payload includes 75 high-profile businessmen, celebrities, doctors, and engineers. $8 million gets each one the privilege of establishing the first permanent colony on the Red Planet. Company officials believe the virus will not survive the cold vacuum of space, and the fiery re-entry into Mars's atmosphere will almost certainly sanitize the spacecraft. However, a leaked internal memo from NASA expressed concern about the mission. The agency is yet to officially rule out the possibility of extraterrestrial life, it reads, and if Martians do exist, it is possible they know about the pandemic and they may refuse to let the astronauts leave the rocket. A controversial law goes into effect tomorrow, allowing the Department of Health and Human Services to request healthy human resources for biofuel production. Earlier today, Health Secretary Dennis Baldwin claimed there are no immediate plans to use this new power, but it may become necessary in a future crisis.
For better or worse, only 1% of the U.S. population has been claimed by the virus. That's not enough to power our country or our economy. If we want to preserve our American way of life, we may have to ask families to surrender one member for biofuel reclamation. In that scenario, we believe elderly relatives should be the first offered, roughly my age. If that is impossible, children will work if need be. Working age men and women, though, are exempt from this legislation, as we believe healthy Americans are the backbone of our economic prosperity.
Meanwhile, a companion bill, which some critics have derided as a reverse one-child policy, has made its way to Congress. Congressman Roger Gibbs of Tennessee brought the Biofuel Acquisition by Independent Engenderment Subsidization Act, or BABIES Act, before the House of Representatives today. If passed, the legislation would require all married couples to conceive at least one child. Gibbs told the House chamber the U.S. will have to increase the birth rate to ensure continuous biofuel production. The bill's co-sponsor, Clarence Holland of Minnesota, clarified that a couple who already surrendered one child to reclamation would be required to conceive another. The bill has strong bipartisan support and is expected to pass the House. A spokesperson for the Senate Majority Leader would not comment on its chances in the Senate. In uplifting news, a new poll suggests Americans feel they have more freedom now than they did at the beginning of the pandemic. According to Gallup, 74% of respondents feel they can do what they want without government interference, compared to just 36% back in 2020. The poll points to the end of social distancing measures and mandatory mask requirements as the source of increased individual freedoms. Tomorrow marks the 4-year anniversary of the infamous Cement Park riots, where the police-involved shooting of artist Xuan Liu sent shockwaves around the globe. This is the moment an international art and culture festival became a bloodbath, as a supposedly non-lethal round fractures Liu's skull. The Chinese citizen was pronounced dead at a Sacramento hospital 7 hours later. The incident officially ended Sino-American relations, sending global markets into free fall and sending unemployment above 70%. The U.S. economy only began its recovery a few months ago thanks to strong biofuel investment. But the president vowed to prevent any similarly horrific events by instituting a nationwide ban on public protests. New research from Emory University suggests an end to the pandemic could be in sight if states return to archaic social distancing measures. The small-scale study found people are less likely to contract the virus if they isolate in their homes and wear masks in public. Health Secretary Baldwin was asked about the study during today's press conference. His opinion was less than favorable.
Look, this study is idealistic at best. The sample size is far too small for this to be a feasible consideration. You could never get an entire country to follow these sort of restrictive, authoritarian measures. It just wouldn't work in the real world. No one wants to accept that we're probably stuck dealing with this virus forever, but it is what it is.
That'll do it for U.S. News Tonight. I'm Sam Gelfand. Have a very good night, wherever you may be.